Hi, I'm Andrej, and I'm going to discuss pointers and how to use them in the C programming language. Now, every variable you use in your program is stored at a memory location, and you can use pointers, a special type of variable, to hold their memory address. Now, under the hood, they are an unsigned integer type their size will depend on whether it's compiled for a 32-bit system or a 64-bit system. So they can point to any native or user-defined type, they can point to void, they can point to other pointers, they can point to structs, or they can point to functions. Now let's define a variable. The variable x is assigned a value of 42. On the second line we've declared a pointer using the int asterisk command, and then we've retrieved the value the address of the variable x using the ampersand or the address of operator. Let's now declare another variable and a pointer and then make that pointer point at it. So the float y is uninitialized and we've assigned its address to the pointer r. Let's now assign a value to y using our pointer. Now on the second line, on the first line we've actually just did a simple assignment, but we could also use the second line where we dereference the pointer r. The asterisk is the dereference operator in this case. We can actually use the dereference operator to assign a value to a variable that we're pointing at, or to read from that variable. Now let's create a new int pointer, but let's say that we want to initialize it further down the line. The best idea is to assign it a null value, because null is a special memory location that cannot contain any value or any variable. So we then can just test whether our pointer is actually valid by using the syntax like this. So as you can see in the if block, we're testing whether q has a value of null, and then we can dereference it if everything is okay. Otherwise, if it hasn't yet been assigned a valid memory address, we don't use it. Now let's make q point at something. Now what we've done here is simply copied the address stored in p into the pointer q. Now both the pointers are pointing at the same memory location. Now let's create a new int and let's call it z. We've made q now point at z by retrieving the address of z and storing it in q. Now q is pointing at z's memory location. Now let's assign the value of z to x using pointers. As you can see, we've dereferenced q and assigned the value that's stored in q to the referenced p. Both p's and q's memory locations, so variables x and z, now hold the same value. This is equivalent to just saying x equals z. We could also use the following. For instance, we dereference p and we assign it the value of z. Or we can actually just assign the dereferenced q operator's value into x. But what if we do this? This is not the same thing. They are now pointing at the same location, both p and q, and now neither of the pointers is actually pointing at x. They're both just pointing at z. So why would we want to use pointers? We use them to pass variables or arrays to functions without actually copying them. We can use them to keep track of dynamically allocated memory if we create a large complex data structures of which size we don't know when we're making our program. We can use pointers to keep track of that using using the dynamically allocated memory allocation. So what are the things you shouldn't do with pointers? You shouldn't dereference an unassigned pointer, or you shouldn't dereference a null pointer. Both lead to undefined behavior. Once a variable on the stack goes out of scope, and if you have assigned a pointer to it, that variable will no longer exist. It will be garbage value, so you shouldn't dereference such a pointer. This also leads to undefined behavior. Now let's see another example. The first line of this example is perfectly fine. We've just assigned 5 to whatever P is pointing at. The second line is not okay because P is now actually pointing at a memory address of 5. The second line won't, the compiler won't let you get away with it, but it will at least warn you. But if you decide to ignore such a warning, this too will lead to undefined behavior. Now another thing is the star or the asterisk is actually called asterisk and not asterisk. Asterisk is actually a really cool comic book. My name is Andrej, thank you for listening, and this is